are actually they're actually literally losing their businesses because of lawsuits, because of they can't hire. And what they don't realize is they've created this environment because they're so determined not to fire the toxic employee. They've created a toxic work environment. And when you create a toxic work environment, you basically are letting go of your good employees, right? They're going to quit. So the other thing that happens is your better employees who are healthy, they're going to quit. A healthy person cannot survive in a toxic environment. Toxic people will hijack your culture. They will. And if you do have someone who's borderline, they're going to become the toxic because they're going to get sick and tired of it. It becomes this mentality of if I can't beat them, I might as well join them, right? So you're better off, let them go, you guys. I know that is scary, but you need to let them go. Now, for the second part of this, I actually, if you're on YouTube watching, I am live on YouTube as well as Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. Facebook will not allow me to show you guys my slide deck for this. But if you're on YouTube, you guys will be able to see my slide deck right now. I want to show you guys my management response cycle. And for those of you guys on Facebook, I will explain it to you. But basically, everybody goes through the same cycle. And really, this is just basic psychology, behavioral psychology 101. The human brain goes through the same cycle for everything that happens, right? Each one of us faces a situation. That situation is a trigger. And all of us can face the exact same situation and we can interpret it differently, right? So the situation is the trigger. That trigger causes you to form a perspective. Your perspective is based on your life experiences, your unique life, and the things that you have gone through. That perspective is what forms your thoughts, right? Now, your opinion on this situation and your perspective that is forming the thoughts are all based on what you've gone through in your lifetime and what you've been exposed to. Those thoughts cause emotions to happen. And those emotions, for some, could be negative, some could be positive, right? Depending on the situation. Those emotions are going to cause you to respond. And that is where things really start to happen for you. That response causes the outcome or consequences that you're living with right now. Everything you've encountered in life, everything goes through this cycle: situation, perspective, thoughts, emotions, response, outcomes. Now, if you can pause between the original trigger and the response, and you can just, it doesn't take long, you guys. Sometimes I will sit there and count to 3 in my head, right? But if you can pause, you can see things a little bit differently. And if you really, really train yourself to stop and look, you're going to start learning pretty quickly how to analyze your thoughts to see if your thoughts are accurate or if your thoughts are inaccurate, right? Because a lot of times our thoughts are wrong. Let's say, for example, you have an employee that calls out today. Now, we are dealing with so many call outs at work right now that it can be infuriating and really hard for us to deal with as employers. I know it is for me. And so when 5 a.m., 4 a.m., whatever rolls around and you get that text message, right? You just hear your phone. It's going to trigger you. Oh, who's calling in now? Are you kidding me? Why can't this staff show up to work ever? Right? So that's a situation. A staff calls out. Now, before I even touch my phone, while my head is still on the pillow, I am forming a perspective based on the experiences that I've been having, which is probably a lot of staff calling in this month. That perspective is forming my thoughts. Are you kidding me? Another call out? Do these people ever show up to work? Right? So my perspective on what I've been dealing with just formed those thoughts. And now I'm angry and I'm upset. Oh, great. Now I'm going to have to work extra hours. I'm going to have to figure out coverage. I'm going to have to do this, right? So before I've even responded, these thoughts are going through my head. And these thoughts, by the way, can go through your head in 3 to 4 seconds. It doesn't take a whole lot of time for this whole cycle to go through. So then we pick up our phone. Sure enough, it's another call out. What do? Start texting, you better come to work, right? Or this is the third, whatever, right? Now let's back up. Do you think that the staff member who's calling out, same situation, they're dealing with the same situation, they're calling out, you're dealing with it, they're dealing with it. Do you think their perspective is the same as yours? No, it's not. Do you think the thoughts are the same? They are not. Do you think their emotions are the same? Absolutely not. Now, if we back up and really look at it, their trigger, they have a situation, they need to call out their perspective. I work really hard. I show up all the time. I deserve this. I'm sick as a dog. I'm not going to work. Those are their thoughts, right? Now, they might also like, oh, I know this manager of mine, they suck. They suck at people calling in, and she's going to be so mad at me because I'm calling in today. And oh, I don't want to deal with this, but I know she's going to be so mad at me. I just have to stand my ground. There's no way I'm going to work throwing up. So now this person has these emotions. They're fearful, right? They're a little bit irritated. And they send the text and they brace themselves waiting for that attack response back, that no, you're going to get to work. I am sick and tired of this, right? So now they're bracing themselves for the response and they're already ready. They're ready to fight back already, right? And so now between these two scenarios, we have an outcome or a consequence. We have a disgruntled staff, a disgruntled manager, maybe both. We have a situation. So if you back up and go back to the situation, and let's take all emotions out, let's take all perspective out, and just look at the facts. An employee is throwing in, calling up. I'm not going to work when I'm throwing up, so that's okay. Now, if I take my perspective out of the situation, my own emotions, and my own personal thoughts, suddenly the situation isn't so bad, is it? Suddenly it might be reasonable. And I might even look to see, oh, this particular employee hasn't called in 2 years. I'm making assumptions because I dealt with 4 call-ins this week, right? And so then I can back up when I start questioning my thoughts. Now I may have, and I'm going to, I'll tell you, I'm me and I will have those negative thoughts. But instead of just going with them and allowing them to dictate my day, I back up and I analyze. And I ask myself, are my thoughts helping me? So I do have a series of questions. And again, if you're on YouTube, you can see the series of questions that might help you to really analyze these thoughts. The first one is describe the situation in an objective format. Do not insert your opinion. The second one, write down the thoughts that went through your mind when you first learned about the situation. So when I was training my brain on how to go through this process, I did write this all out and I would go through these every time I had a situation that was big. I wouldn't go through it on all of them, just the big ones that I had to really figure out what to do. So write down the thoughts that went through your brain. Acknowledge the negative thoughts. Don't make them go, no, they're there and that's okay. Acknowledge them. That helps. What emotions are my thoughts causing me to feel? Acknowledge it. I'm angry. I'm tired of this happening. I'm angry. I'm frustrated. How do I want to react based on these emotions? I want to lash out and tell them to get to work, right? That's how I want to react, and that's okay. What thoughts am I having that are unhelpful? Very important. Or not supported by the facts. Now, in this situation, a lot of the ones I just told you are not helpful at all. I don't need to lose a good employee who truly was sick, and I don't need someone throwing up at work, right? So in my scenario, what are unhelpful thoughts? Well, my negativity. My negativity is unhelpful. What would someone who has no background information and who's just looking onward, what would they say? Would they have the same thoughts? How would I react if I based my response strictly on facts and took emotions out of my reaction? That's a big one for me. Take the emotions out, just look at the facts. How would I react? Now, that doesn't mean I'm still not going to follow policy. Now, if this person is called in 4 times, I might say, hey, you've already been written up. This is grounds for termination, right? But I'm going to work on the facts. I'm going to make my decisions based on the facts. I may not even respond at all at first, or other than acknowledge, right? I acknowledge I received this. That's it. So what thoughts am I having that are unhelpful or supportive? Or with the no background information? Sorry, guys. What would someone who has no background information say, right? Take yourself out of it. How would I react based on my response strictly on the facts? Strictly the facts. If you were the staff member in question, what do you think is actually happening? Will this family/employee's action, or will this situation continue to affect my program? Very big, important question. Is this going to affect us, and how? What will be most helpful to my company in this situation? What outcome would I like to see? I like to think of this as my magic wand. If I had a magic wand, what would I like to happen? And what outcomes can I take in order to make this happen? That's another really important one. I want a solution. I want these call-ins to stop. So what policies can I create? What incentive programs? What can I do? Do we need better hand washing procedures? Because come on, stomach flu is all hand washing. If you wash your hands properly, you don't get the stomach flu, right? So if you're getting a spread of communicable diseases, that means sanitation at your center is not working. You're not cleaning well enough, and definitely not hand washing enough. And I will be the first to say, I just coming out of a 2-week bout of COVID. So we're all there sometimes, right? Hand washing is the key. We now know through the studies that have been out that it's hand washing that prevented all of the things. So I also have a little chart. And if you're on YouTube, for those of you listening to the podcast, I will put my YouTube link in the show notes so you can see the slides that I'm presenting. But I have this little where I will actually write out what is the situation, what is my perspective, what are my thoughts, what are my emotions, how do I want to respond, and what is the outcome. Now, Viktor Frankl has an amazing quote about stimulus and response. He says that between stimulus and response is a moment. And if you can pause in that moment, you can control your life. Stop letting situations control you. Stop letting them steal your joy. Stop letting situations dictate where you're going and what you're feeling. Take your power back and pause. Pause and pull yourself out of the situation and see it for what it is. It's just a situation. You assign whether it's positive or negative to the situation. And I can guarantee you that your life, you as a manager and a leader, will be so much more relaxed and things will get so much easier if you follow this process. If you stop assigning thoughts and emotions to situations based on your life experiences and just see them for what they are. They're just situations, right? We assign it and make it what they are. So a lot of times we have our own selves to blame as we're getting super frustrated and upset with the staff and all the things happening around us. So this is just a little sample, you guys, of a very long training I do on covert toxicity. My full training is about 4 hours long, where I teach you guys a deep dive into how do you identify covert toxicity? What do you do with it? How do you eradicate it from your center? I even go into how do you investigate, how do you fire an employee properly with procedures, and how do you figure out if maybe it's not the employee and maybe it's you, maybe it's the leader. If your program is really struggling, I can tell you, like, if your whole staff doesn't listen. I was there once. I once walked into my childcare program and I literally said to myself, my entire staff needs to be fired. They all suck. Literally said that to myself. Turned out it wasn't them. It was my leadership. And as I became a better leader, my staff stepped up too. So are you in that situation? Do you allow situations to control you, or are you in control of the situations? Just remember that pause between the stimulus, the situation, and your response. And train your staff to do the same. I'm finding that the biggest toxicity that we are finding in any workplace, not just as teachers in early childhood education, is a lack of emotional intelligence. I see that in leaders and I see that in staff. It's just a lack of emotional intelligence, which basically comes down to self awareness, self regulation, decision making skills, and social skills. I mean, it's a lot more complex, but those are the basics. And if we can get that in line, any of us can have the dream team that we all want. So I hope this was helpful for you guys. I'm super excited. Over the next few days, I'm going to be at my Visionary Circle retreat with the highest level childcare center owners in the country. And it is an amazing mastermind. If you are a high level owner who understands that there's a lot out there, and there's so many owners out there right now who are facing bankruptcy and just are filled with doom and gloom. And it doesn't have to be that way, you guys. If you have more of an entrepreneur spirit and less of a small business owner, then reach out to me. Send me a message on, if you're on Facebook or if you're on YouTube, you can see admin@childcarebusinessprofessionals.com is the email. We would love to talk to you about joining a circle of people who are more like you, who get it, who understand that there's more than enough money, there's more than enough children out there, and that you can have prosperity in this while putting the children first. So message me. And also, just my last bit, this podcast episode was brought to you by Kangaroo Time. Our friends at Kangaroo Time, the best childcare software out there. I have tried a lot of them, you guys. And not only does the company have so much integrity, but the software is amazing too. So it's a win-win. Thank you so much for joining me. And I will have a recording for you guys next week for Monday, since I will actually be out of town still at, gosh, I don't know. I'll be gone for the next 10 days at different speaking events and different things I have to do. So I will have a recording for you guys, but I'm sure we will have something great for you. So have a wonderful day. I really hope if you guys would let me know in the comments if this episode was really good for you, or if you could email me this episode on the toxic employees and how to identify covert toxicity, not the blatant, but covert, and how to really deal with it. Thank you. And I'm going to end